The silent room above the attic. I first learned about the silent room above the attic on the day I moved into my late Aunt Eleanor's old Victorian house, a massive, creaking structure on Halloween Road that loomed like a forgotten relic of grief, with its slanted rooflines, windows, and a strange heaviness in the air as if every corner held a memory that didn't want to be touched. And though I wasn't superstitious, the house had always frightened me as a child, especially the attic, which Aunt Eleanor never allowed me near, saying, "No one should disturb what doesn't belong to us," a statement I had left off back then but which returned to me uncomfortably the moment I signed the inheritance papers. The house layout was simple, 2 floors, a basement, and an attic with a single small storage room, but on the blueprint inside the inheritance envelope, I noticed something odd. A faint outline of an additional room above the attic, and labeled with no door, no stairs, no access at all, drawn lightly, as though someone had tried to erase it but couldn't bring themselves to fully remove it. And when I asked the lawyer about it, he peeled and muttered, "Ignore it. Some architects add design drafts that never get built," but the way his hands trembled told me there was more to the story. My first night there, I slept in the downstairs guest room and woke around subah ke 3:12 to a slow, rhythmic sound, footsteps, not downstairs, not in the hallway, but directly above the attic, in the exact space where the erased room should have been, pacing from one side to the other in measured, deliberate steps. Like someone trapped in a narrow corridor or patrolling an unseen prison, I tried to convince myself it was old wood shifting or wind-rattling beams, but the steps were too steady, too human, too intentional, and when they stopped abruptly, a cold silence fell so thick I could hear my own heartbeat echoing through my ears. The next morning, I climbed up to the attic armed with a flashlight and a hammer, determined to find whatever caused the noise, but the attic was exactly as I remembered, piled with dusty crates, old furniture, and sedan trunks, nothing unusual, except for one thing: the ceiling slanted upward, and I noticed a square outline, faint but visible, like a trapdoor hidden beneath layers of old plaster, positioned directly above the attic floor. The shape matched the erased room on the blueprint. When I touched the plaster, a chill shot through my fingers, colder than the rest of the house. That night, the footsteps returned, louder, faster, as if whoever, or whatever, was up there was agitated by my discovery. They paced, stopped, paced again, and then something new happened. A dragging sound, like someone pulling a heavy object across the wooden floor of a room that shouldn't exist. I fled my guest room and slept in my car until sunrise. Determined to uncover the truth, I visited the town's historical society where I found old records dating back more than a century. Apparently, the house had belonged to the Merrow family in the late 1800s, and one name kept appearing: Abigail Merrow, a quiet teenage girl who, according to local legend, lived in silence above the attic because her parents believed she was cursed. The story claimed she never spoke, never smiled, and wandered the house at night without making a sound. Her footsteps soft but unmistakable, and when neighbors complained of hearing her walk long after she died mysteriously at 17, the family sealed her room and tried to erase its existence entirely. The more I read, the more my stomach twisted. The room wasn't a blueprint mistake. It was real, sealed shut, forgotten on purpose. And I was living beneath it. That night, at precisely subah ke 3:12, the footsteps began again, but this time they were accompanied by a rhythmic tapping, like fingers drumming impatiently on the floorboards, followed by faint, shaky breathing that felt so close, as though someone stood just a few inches above my ceiling. Then I heard my name whispered in a trembling voice that sounded like a young girl speaking from behind a wall. Let me down. Terrified, I ran to the attic, flashlight shaking in my hand. The trapdoor outline glowed faintly, not with light, but with something colder than the air around it. I hit the plaster with my hammer, and after a few strikes, the corner cracked. As I pried a piece away, a gust of icy air blasted out, carrying with it the faint smell of wet earth and something olden, something that had been shut away too long. Beneath the plaster was a wooden hatch with rusted metal hinges. And beneath that hatch, something moved. A single thud rattled the hatch from below, as if a hand had struck it from the inside. Then another. Then the sound of nails scraping the wood. I stumbled backward, hot slamming against my ribs, and the attic bulb flickered violently. I didn't open the hatch, I couldn't, but as I ran downstairs, I heard a soft female voice drifting through the cracks of the attic ceiling. Thank you for finding me out that night. I locked myself in the downstairs guest room again, but the footsteps did not stay above the attic. Around subah ke 4 baje, they descended. I heard the attic leaden creak open by itself. Then soft, slow footsteps on the hallway floor. I held my breath as they approached my bedroom door, stopping just outside. The doorknob twisted slightly, as if someone was testing it. I pressed my hand over my mouth to keep from screaming. When the knob stilled, a girl's whisper seeped through the wood. Why did you stop? I've been waiting so long. The door shut and once, then the footsteps retreated slowly back into the attic. I left the house at dawn to stay with a friend, but later that afternoon, I received a call from a contractor who came to inspect the attic roof damage after I'd reported unusual noises. His voice shook over the phone as he told me, "You need to get back here. You need to see this." When I arrived, he pointed to the attic leaden, pale and sweating. "I didn't go up," he said. "I didn't need to. Someone already came down." Dusty footprints, small, barefoot, led from the attic, across the hallway, down the stairs, and into the living room where they stopped abruptly in front of the old piano. The piano keys were pressed down as if someone had sat there recently. The contractor quit immediately. Unable to stay away, I returned that night determined to end whatever horror had been set loose. I armed myself with tools, salt, even holy water from the local church, anything that could help me face whatever lived above the attic. At midnight, I entered the attic and approached the cracked trapdoor. It pulsed faintly like a cold heartbeat. I whispered, "Abigail, what do you want?" and the air shifted. A voice answered from behind the hatch, trembling with centuries of loneliness. "A door, please open the door." The wood bulged outward as if pressed by a hand from within. Against every instinct screaming at me to run, I unlatched the hatch. It fell open with a heavy thud, revealing utter darkness, darkness so deep it looked like a hole in the wall. I shined my flashlight into it and saw a narrow wooden room, barely bigger than a closet, walls scratched with thousands of lines like telemarks. And in the far corner, facing the wall, stood a girl with long black hair hanging damp over her face, her nightgown stained with something dark. She didn't move. She didn't breathe. Then her head twisted around, not turned, twisted, slowly, impossibly, until her face faced me though her body didn't move at all. Her eyes were wide, unblinking, black pits that swallowed the flashlight beam. "You opened it," she whispered, her lips barely moving. "Now we can trade." I stumbled back, but she emerged from the room without walking. She floated forward, her feet inches above the floor, the air freezing wherever she passed. The attic door slammed shut behind me although I hadn't touched it. Abigail drifted closer. Her voice echoed inside my skull. "You opened my silence, now I will open yours." Her hand, pale and cold as death, pressed against my throat. I couldn't scream. I couldn't breathe. I blacked out. When I woke, it was morning. I was lying outside on the front porch, the attic door wide open behind me. My voice was gone. I tried to speak, to call for help, but only a faint rasp escaped my throat. My phone buzzed with a voicemail notification from my own number. Playing it, I felt blood run cold. It was my voice whispering, "I'm waiting upstairs." I fled the house, leaving everything behind, and drove until I could no longer see Halloween Road in the rearview mirror. But silence followed me. I hear footsteps every night at subah ke 3:12, walking in a room I can't see. Sometimes above me, sometimes beside me, sometimes so close it feels like someone is breathing against my ear. And every morning when I check my phone, there is a new voicemail. My voice. Whispering things I never said. Last night's message only had 3 words, "Let me in." And as I write this, I hear footsteps above me again, even though I live in an apartment with no attic. The silent room followed me. And it won't stop until I take her place.